October 19th, 2010 Parish Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Would you please stand for the invocation and pledge?
Dear Lord, again we come thanking you that you have allowed us to see another blessed day. We thank thee for this board. We thank thee for the staff. We thank thee for those who have come seeking a solution to a problem. We ask that you would guide us and watch over us and let us do that for which is pleasing in our sight. In the name of the Father, and Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Roll call, please, Christy.
Chair John Duhan.
Here.
Vice Chair Harold Doucette.
Here.
Mr. LaSalle Williams.
Here.
Mr. Jake Porche.
Here.
Mr. David Connor.
Here.
Mr. Ray Taylor.
Here.
Mr. Wick Baker.
Here.
Mr. Gary Navarre.
Here.
Miss Betty Brown. Here. Miss Latricia Cobb. Here. And Mr. Elijah Gilreath.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. This is an 11-member board. It will take a majority of those members present to grant or deny any request heard tonight. The meeting will be conducted with me reading the request from the agenda. The planning staff will give a presentation and report their recommendations. If the applicant would like to add to the staff's presentation, or if someone from the audience has comments, please come to the microphone here at the corner. State your name and address and the nature of your request. All persons wishing to speak other than the applicant need to fill out a blue card. So, you can find them in the back. I recommend that a spokesman be selected if there's a large group wanting to speak on any one item. After the discussion, the board will vote on each request. I will announce the decision of the board after the vote. All zoning exceptions and variance cases are final tonight. The rezoning case will go before the police jury for final action on Thursday, October the 21st, 2010 at 5:30 p.m. in this same room. This meeting is being taped by Calcasieu Parish Government Channel and can be viewed on Wednesdays and Thursdays following the meeting. For additional run dates, check the website www.cppj.net. Channel 5 in Lake Charles and Suffolk will cover it. Channel 61 in Moss Bluff, Westlake, Benton, and DeQuincy. Channel 99 in Carlos and Grand Lake. At this time, if you would, please turn off all cell phones, any pagers like that. First item on the agenda is to take appropriate action on case EX01-02301, a request by Mark and Billy Fallon to revise the zoning exception to amend a site plan and to remove stipulation 3 that the business is non-transferable. That's at 785 Bozo Road in Ward 1. Ms. Wallace?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, but I think we missed number 5.
Thank you. I just skipped right ahead there, didn't I? Let's jump back to number 5. Take appropriate action on case preliminary approval for Courtyard Subdivision, Part 1, to be developed by Mike Bailey for residential purposes on White Road in Ward 1. Ms. Wallace.
This is in the Moss Bluff area, and it's a subdivision that will have 50 lots that are developed in 3 phases. Each lot will be about 7,500 square feet, and there will be 1 home per lot. And the developer is able to do this because he plans to connect to municipal water and install a community sewer system. The property is zoned R1 single-family residential and R2 mixed residential, but the developer will have some subdivision restrictions filed that will allow houses only, and he does plan to construct all of the units himself. The flood zone of this area is X, which is an area of minimal flooding, so the staff does recommend that the request be granted as long as the development complies with stormwater best management practices.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Any questions, comments?
Motion for approval.
I got a motion from Mrs. Cobb, a second from Mr. Doucette. All in favor, state aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Now we go to number 6. Take appropriate action on the revision case of EX01-023-01, a request by Mark and Billy Fallon to revise the zoning exception to amend the site plan and to remove the stipulation number 3 that the business is non-transferable. 785 Bozo Road, Ward 1. Ms. Wallace?
This property is also located in Moss Bluff. The Poussons were the original owners of this property, and they came before the board in 2001 and received an exception to allow a daycare facility at this location. When the board granted that request, they also imposed the stipulation that the business not be transferable, that the exception not be transferable to any new owners. In 2008, the business was actually transferred to the Fallons, who are the current owners, and somehow it slipped past us in the office. Their licensing has never lapsed. They have continued to be a legal business, although we did not enforce that one stipulation. And now the Fallons would like to expand the existing facility by enclosing a carport, so they will not change the footprint of the building. And in order to do this, they'll need a modification of their site plan that was actually approved by the board in 2005 with a request by the Poussons. And then we also need to remove the stipulation that the business be non-transferable so that the Fallons can continue to operate legally. The staff does recommend that the request be granted with the stipulation that the current development stay in accordance with the site plan.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Any questions or comments from any board members?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion for approve from Mr. Williams. A second from Mrs. Brown. All in favor state aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is number 7, to take appropriate action on case VA 03-012-10, a request by James and Rebecca Flowers for a zoning variance to reduce the side yard setback requirement. Required is 5 feet. They're requesting 0 feet at 910 Manual Road in Ward 3. Ms. Wallace?
We do have a whole new packet on this case that you should have in front of you. And just to tell you a little bit about the situation, this property is located in South Lake Charles, and it encompasses 0.15 acres of single-family residential property. And the petitioners have started construction of a 16.5-foot by 34.5-foot carport that actually encroaches on the side setback, which is required to be 5 feet. And when the petitioners submitted the request, it appeared that they needed a variance to reduce that side setback to 1.5 feet. And we had some questions from some board members and from some members of the public as to the actual location of the property line, as well as the exact variance that was being requested. So we did contact the petitioners today, and they were very helpful, and they got a surveyor out there today that submitted the survey that you see on the 3rd page of the packet. And this new survey indicates that the carport is actually at one point sitting on the property line, and at another point it is actually about 5 inches from the property line. So we've revised the request to have the variance down to 0 feet. The staff does feel that the board should grant a variance on the side setback because it's very similar to the character of the neighborhood. There's other people that encroach on the property line, but we do feel that the 0 feet is a little too extreme. So we would recommend that you all grant the variance with the stipulation that the carport be constructed no closer than 2 feet to the property line, and that the construction of the carport be complete within 60 days of zoning approval, and that would include the installation of gutters to keep any stormwater from going on the neighbor's property.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Is someone here representing James and Rebecca Flowers? Please step to the mic and state your name and address, sir.
James Flowers, 910 Manual Road.
Okay. You heard Mrs. Wallace's recommendation of 2 feet in gutters.
Yes, sir, I understand that, but that property there, we had 2 7-foot oak trees, 80 foot tall. The hurricane took out, topped, and we had to take them out. So I do not really think I can do it in 60 days because of the work that
Can't do what in 60 days?
build a carport. I mean, I have no problem with that, except I don't think I can do it in that length of time.
But are you okay with the 2 feet in the gutter?
Well, I would really like less. I really would. I mean,
Any questions, comments? Yes.
Well, I'll comment. I know you were asking her for a variance, and I think the variance was probably a reasonable request prior to us knowing where the property line was. But the question is, if we gave a variance, we had no way of knowing where your current construction was going to lie, whether it was on the property line, 6 inches or a foot. So that survey has now told us that you're basically touching the property line. Any additional construction, probably if you're going to do an eave or gutters or anything, is going to actually extend even further. So
No, sir.
Looked at the survey, you are actually on the property line with your poles. Okay, if you're going to do gutters, you're going to actually come over the top of the property line.
No, sir.
Well, okay, but to the property line, let's say to the property line. If you,
No, sir, Mr. Caldwell, my intention was, because, go back, the property line was agreed upon, my neighbor and myself. That's the only thing we knew. We had this point in the back, and then, but the gutter's gonna go on the inside. The metal's gonna stop, and the gutter's gonna go inside the property line to, and it would really help me if stipulation would be the posts stay on the property line and allow me, I can go 2 foot in, I can go 3 foot in, I can go 5 foot in. But if I could go 2 foot in, and that would be the end of the gutters of metal, you'd have 2 foot opening on the property line. If I could do that, I could have it done in 60 days. And because we have I have 6 inches of water standing in that driveway right now, and whenever it rains, and my neighbor's water drains to that point also. So I can't raise my driveway or nothing. I'm trying to keep our water situation down to a minimum. And if I was just allowed to stop the metal 2 foot, I would be happy with that, and I can, if the posts could stay where they're at.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
So you're wanting to keep the posts where they're currently at?
Yeah, if I could do that and stop the metal 2 foot away from the property line with the gutters, 'cause I plan on having sufficient gutters up there.
I'm not understanding how your construction comes inside those poles.
Okay.
You're talking about coming inside those poles and coming with another.
Yes, sir. That bottom piece is below the poles, so the gutter could sit underneath and attach, so I could stop the metal, and then the gutters would be underneath it, and the water would drain right off.
But where are the walls of your? Are you going to put walls on your carport? No walls.
No, sir. I stopped. I hadn't done anything. The rest of it could be metal. I still got the metal beams to go across there. Once I realized the situation, I just stopped. I said, "No, I got."
Let me clarify. I think the poles are on the property line right now. So if we gave him a 2 foot variance, he'd have to move them in 2 feet.
They're poles and everything. That's correct.
Yes, sir.
And I think he's wanting to keep the poles where they're at and bring the metal in too.
I could bring the metal 3 foot in if that's what, but I could do the 2 foot with no problem, and have the gutters up and everything.
Yes, Mr. Doucette?
But your variance is gonna be for your lot line 0. So the variance that we're gonna give you is basically for the poles, not for the roof.
Yes, sir.
You know, so in essence, the poles is what you're getting a variance for, because that limits your neighbor or that fence line from access. We're not so much worried about the overhang or what's above all that. It's about what's on the property line. That being said, I don't know that 0, and I understand where you're at, and I feel for you, but in my opinion, I think 0 is a little too close.
And I understand, I mean, but if y'all made me move it, there's no way I can do that in 60 days.
Would 90 days be sufficient? How long do you need if we ask you to move it
It
back?
took me 4 weeks to dig them 3 holes, 'cause I've got a oak tree that's 7 foot in diameter. There's two of them there underneath the ground I gotta go through.
You understand, we're not doing this. We want you to go through that work again. But at some point in time, on the sale of a property, whether it be your neighbor or the heirs or whatever, if there's some sort of the issue have to be dealt with then. If we give the variance to 0, and anything happens where that 0 variance, anything, you know, it's just too much of a risk to put your neighbor in to leave it like this. Had that situation happened where you came in to get your permits prior to, you would have known. You would have been told that you would have had to have a variance prior to, but we understand that you started your construction and then came in to ask the questions about permitting. So that's when you learned why the issue with the variance or the property setback. I'm sorry. So
I actually thought I had 1.5 foot, 2 foot. I mean, when we measured it out and everything, but
Mr. Navarre?
The fire ratings, aren't they based on distance? Doesn't that have something to do with the fire ratings? If we allow this, it may cause the fire ratings for that district to go down and make everybody's fire insurance go up. Personally, I'm not gonna stick my foot in that trap.
So, with that in mind, do we have anyone that has a recommendation?
Recommend that he get granted, more time to be able to move the poles.
And how far are you recommending he move them?
Did you really, earlier, did you say, when we talked about 90 days, would that be enough?
I would do my best. That's all I can tell you. I would do my.
Okay, let's let him finish his mode. Okay. We got 90 days, and how far back from the property line?
I think we need to go 2 foot.
2 foot.
Talked about.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor. Give the gentleman 90 days and move it 2 feet setback from the property line.
second.
I got a second from Mr. Connor. All in favor of the motion, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No?
No.
Got 1 no, 2 noes? Okay, is that it, just 2 noes? Okay. All right, I need a motion for the,
I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
I got a motion to approve as amended from Mr. Doucette,
I second it.
a second from Mr. Taylor. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Time out. Another question. What are we voting on now?
Uh,
We just voted on 2 foot setback in 90 days.
I'm sorry.
And that was approved.
That was the amendment.
No, there's no motion there. It can't be an amendment. There's no motion.
Yeah, Coach made the motion, I seconded it.
Okay, let's go back then.
I wasn't paying attention. Start over again.
We got to go back. I'm not understanding. We had an original motion for approval for the 0 lot line, 0 variance.
2
You
feet.
had to make the motion to discuss it. Is there, who made the motion?
Well, what I had was, Navarre had made the motion and Gilrey seconded it. And,
What was the original motion?
hold on, Ray Taylor made a motion to allow 90 days and to move to set back 2 feet from the property line.
Right.
That's what I had.
And that was approved.
Right. So we have an amendment. Now we have to vote on the
You said
motion.
that was the motion.
But your information is wrong, because Navarre and I didn't,
Well, no, wait,
we
wait,
both said no.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at something else. I have a motion from Doucette and Taylor.
Right. Okay.
Is that right?
Taylor made the motion
I
and
made the
Doucette
Right.
made.
That's correct.
Taylor made the motion. I'll second. And it's not an amendment, it's a motion.
And then we had, and the 2 noes were Navarre and also you, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
So the motion is 2 foot setback in 90 days. There's no amendment, it's just
Oh,
just a
he,
motion.
well, that's,
That's just the
let me,
main motion.
it might have been stated wrong, but he was offered an amendment. I might have stated it wrong, but it wasn't a motion, it was an amendment to have it 90.
Amendment to what? You have to have a motion to have an amendment. When we put
We
a
always,
motion-
we always make the stipulations or amendments before we vote for the motion.
I think Mr.
The motion.
Mr. Chairman, maybe I can help a little bit.
Please.
The original motion was patterned after the recommendation of the staff, and it was no closer than 2 feet and 60 days. And so the 60 days was basically amended to 90 days. The 2 feet was just restated. So that was an amendment. It's now been amended to that, and the motion will now read, carport be constructed no closer than 2 feet to property line. Construction of the carport be complete, including installation of gutters, within 90 days of zoning approval, and that now needs to
We're voting on 2 foot and 90 days.
Yes, sir.
That's the main motion. Okay.
Mhm.
Yes, and I got a motion and a second, so now we need a roll call vote, please.
Chair Duhan,
Yes.
Ms. Brown. Yes. Mr. Doucette,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yeah.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Porsche,
Yes.
Ms. Cobb. Yes. Mr. Baker.
Yes.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Navarre,
No.
and Mr. Gilrey.
No.
9 for and 2 against.
I'm sorry,
9 for and 2 against.
9 for, 2 against passes.
Thank y'all.
Next is number 8, take appropriate action on case VA 06-013-10, a request by Keith and Gail Salter for a zoning variance to allow a second dwelling with less than required with less than required lot square footage. Required is 87,120 square feet. He's requesting 64,457 square feet at 251 T. Ladue Road in Ward 6. Ms. Wallace?
This property is located north of Sulphur and encompasses about an acre and a half of A1 zone property. The petitioners do need a zoning variance to allow a second dwelling on one lot with less than the required lot square footage. And they actually have had 2 manufactured homes on this lot, and I believe in the aerial photography you can actually see the 2. But they would like to replace one of those. And we have had some changes to our ordinance over the past few years, so now they are considered a non-conforming lot. And when they removed that trailer off of the property, they lost that non-conforming status, and in order to replace it with a new one, with, I should say, a used 14 by 60 manufactured home, they do need a variance from you all to go ahead and move forward with that plan. The staff recommends that the request be granted with the stipulation that the development adhere to the site plan on file and that the manufactured home be skirted prior to utilities being connected.
Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments from anyone on the board? Anyone in opposition? Got a motion from Mrs. Brown, a second from Mrs. Cobb. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Got 2 noes. Mr. Cotter and Mr. Doucette, no. Correct?
Connor and Doucette, no.
It's over with. It's over with. I asked for opposition. I asked for. You're out of order, sir. Yeah, you did, but I'm not going to entertain you. Thank you.
Well, you're not entertaining me because you're not giving me anything to do. How in the South Hill can you start a trailer and then hook the utilities up?
Sir,
I can't buy a.
you won. You won, sir.
I don't want them winning. I want to know why I have to go through this, and then they tell me up to the planning that they can change it before I even get it done. I can't buy a 14 by 60 trailer. The auction's over with. I had a 10 by 50. I need to change it. I didn't understand what you want, so I want you to back up and let me have my say.
That's not going to happen. Number 9, take appropriate action on case RZ 07-008-10, a request by Louisiana Airboat Incorporated to rezone from C1 light commercial to C2 general commercial to allow commercial development, airboat sales and service and tours at 6015 Bro Road in Ward 7. Ms. Wallace.
This property is located in the Benton area and it encompasses 7.5 acres. The property is zoned C1 light commercial right now, and the petitioners would like to rezone it to general commercial so that they can own and operate an airboat business at this location. It would be a second location spinning off from an existing facility they have in Orange, Texas. And at this site, they would sell and service the airboats, and they would also provide off-site tours to the public in the future. The development will consist of the existing vinyl building on this site, 5 asphalt parking spaces, and the existing 5-foot chain link fence. The staff recommends that the request be granted with the stipulation that the development adhere to the site plan on file.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Is the applicant here for the airboat? Yes. Would you step to the mic, please, sir, and state your name and address?
May I ask a question before I leave?
No, sir. No, sir. I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
My name's Stan Floyd. I live at 433 Letcher Drive in Orange, Texas.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about what you're planning on doing, sir.
Basically, we need a physical location to do business with in the state of Louisiana. That really sums it up. Airboat sales and service is my primary business, and we're asking for very little here. I understand there's some people here that are concerned that I'm going to be doing tourism out of this location, and that is not even physically possible to run tours out of this 7 acres.
And what's the name of the street you're proposing to be located on?
It's Road.
Okay.
It is behind the way station on the south side of Interstate 10.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments of the gentleman? Yes, Mr. Doucette?
Is it the same service? Do you own that business that's right off of I-10 as we're driving into Texas?
Yes, sir.
And the reason you want this location here is so you can physically do business in the state of Louisiana?
Correct. With your numerous governmental agencies, I manufacture and service airboats for numerous governmental agencies, and that's what we want to expand on that and give us an opportunity to conduct more business in the state of Louisiana.
So what are you hoping to do out of this location particularly? If you're not going to run a tour out of it, what are you going to do?
I want to do business with the state, and physically I have to own a location in the state of Louisiana to do business. And that's, this is a good little piece of property. It's close to our other location, and it gives us our physical address, and it'll give us a good little area to sell and service boats.
Yes, Mrs. Cobb?
Will you be employing anybody in this business?
Yes, ma'am. I already employ some people with this business.
Are they from Louisiana? You'll be employing Louisiana people?
A couple of them are. Yes, ma'am. We do we do business with Cameron State Bank. All our payroll is ran through there, and I think it's good for the Vinton area.
How many employees do you
Brown.
anticipate having?
Well, we have like 3 employees right now, and I'd like to get it up to 8 or 10.
Yes, Mr. Taylor?
So the primary business over here will be building and servicing airboats at that location?
Sales and service at that location. We
You
will
won't
not
be building, you'll just be selling them and servicing them at that location.
Right.
Any other questions or comments? We've got some opposition. So, yes, Mr. Baker?
I'd like to vouch for Mr. Floyd. I've known him for 25 or 30 years. He's been in business in Orange, and he's been a good business person in Orange. He's been good to Orange, and I think he'll be a good asset towards 7.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. I've got several people here who wanted to speak in opposition, as I stated early. Would one of you like to serve as spokesman for the group and step up to the mic and state your name and address, please?
My name is Thad Daly. I live at 6070 Patrick Lane, which is just through from the area that we're speaking of. The people in the area have opposition to, one, the noise. You're going to be servicing airboats with large block Chevrolet engines. You're going to have prop noise. These engines are unmuffled. And this is basically a rural residential area. Another thing is the traffic on the road and bringing the boats in and out on trailers. There's children back there. And there is a very large opposition to them having free reign in the marsh behind our houses. Now, he says the tours are not going to be out of Louisiana, but the tours are in Louisiana. They're running in the marsh just south of Cormier Cemetery Road, which has several endangered species in there, like the merganser, the hooded merganser, the coastal wolf, bald eagles. You have large companies back there that are trying to maintain habitat for wildlife, like the Marsh Club and the Four Seasons Duck Club. These are actual businesses, though they use the name club. And running these boats back there, one lady back there runs a care for homeless children she'll have any place from 6 to 12 kids, and the boats run right up behind her house. So that's our basic objection, is the noise, the traffic, and what they're abusing the marsh behind the house. All this land belongs to somebody. It'd be like a rice farmer having a garden club tripping across his rice field to look at the flowers. These people are trying to maintain a habitat in that marsh, and these tours are killing it. Any questions?
Comments?
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Baker.
The club you're talking about is down, the hunting club is down, all the way down Old 90?
Not all the way down, about halfway down, right before Webb Gully. That's one. The second one is at Four Seasons, which is right at the end of the land where the Levee Road starts going to the Burnout Bridge.
Okay, but you said that was not a hunting club, it's a business?
Yeah, all those are businesses. They call them clubs, but they're really businesses.
When they put those in, they didn't come through any zoning or anything because they came under clubs, and now they're a business. So I find that kind of funny that.
Well, that's something out of my knowledge. But the thing is, that marsh back there is wetlands. You can't go running over the vegetation with an airboat in a wetland. That's federal. And we really need to stop the airboats back there, the noise.
Boats back there?
Oh, this is yesterday.
No, I'm
Yes.
talking about outboard boats.
No, they can't get in there.
Can't get in there.
No,
Mud boats? No.
no. But airboats, yeah, I had an airboat yesterday within 80 yards of my house.
Sir, I have a
Mr.
question.
Doucette, go ahead.
Sir, I don't mean to cut you off, but we're not here about that marsh. We're here about them 7 acres on Bro Road that adjoin the interstate. That's what we're here for.
Okay.
We're a land use body. Those landowners in that marsh, if they have problems with those airboats, they need to address it with those
Well,
airboats.
the zoning did say
So
airboat tours.
that's the name of his business, I would assume. I don't see him running a tour, and he might run a little tour in that little lake that he's got on them 7 acres. I don't know, but
Okay, well, what are we going to do about the noise? You ever heard of Big Block Chevrolet turning a 12-foot prop?
yes, sir, I understand that, and you know, I
mean, there's
don't
neighbors
imagine
right
he
next
would do
door.
it. Well, he's right.
Freddie
200 yards-
Patrick lives.
200 yards from the interstate.
Freddie Patrick lives within a rock's throw of that land.
We just need to stay focused on the land.
Okay, we are. Okay, we're back to the land. But I'm talking about the noise. Now, if he wanted to sell boats there, I'd keep my mouth shut. But when he says repairs, that means he's going to be turning the engines up.
Yes, Mr. Connor.
Well, you mentioned that this was a residential area. According to our map here, and I guess clarify this, but this is a C1 commercial area that we're looking at switching from C1 to C2, but surrounding is agricultural. So you might have residents in the area, but it's not a residentially
Okay,
zoned
that
area.
may not be the zoning, but the nearest other commerce in that area is up at the intersection.
But it's still
Texas-
zoned, it's zoned for commercial.
It may be zone commercial, but there is no commercial back there.
We're talking about switching from one commercial zoning classification to another commercial zoning classification. I just wanted to clarify that, because you said this was residence. It's not residence. It's not a residence.
Well, as
Because
far as usage, it is all residential back there. It was probably changed to commercial zoning without their knowledge.
I don't know how that could happen without
Uh-huh.
people's knowledge, because it gets publicized when those things change. But in a agricultural area, for residents that live there, there are other kinds of agricultural activities that take place that cause things such as noise because of farming and those kind of things.
I promise you, none of the noise that they can make is as loud as an airboat.
Any
I
other
would be
questions?
interested to hear from the owner how you do any kind of, if there's a way to do noise mitigation on, if it's done indoors with walls or barriers, anything like that. That'd be interesting.
Sure.
Like to hear.
I'll call him up in just a minute. Yes, Mr. Doucette.
We're in a land use body. A noise issue would be with the sheriff. That would be, nuisance ordinance.
Oh, but you're going to change the zoning so they can create that noise.
Zoning is commercial now, sir.
Okay.
We're going to change the classification within a zoning. Am I correct, Ms. Jennifer?
Yes, it is zone commercial now.
Yeah. We're just going to change a classification within a level within that classification. The property is commercial property. We're going to change with stay within the commercial property and change within that classification to prevent.
Well, the commercial zoning of that particular property was for a fish pond, which is that lake that you referred to.
Yes, sir.
And a fish pond is considerably quieter than an airboat.
Yes, sir, I'm well aware of that.
Mr. Daly, you want to step up? Let the gentleman step up. Yes, sir. The question he asked was in reference to the noise from the airboats.
Well, I would definitely address that and make sure that I would not be bothering my neighbors. And they are all muffled today. We don't deal with anything that is not muffled, and we use 6-foot propellers, not 12-foot. I have talked personally to all of my adjacent neighbors, that property that adjoins that property, and no one has had anything negative to say to my face. And I've told all of them they can continue to fish in the pond, and nothing would change. We just need a location to do business in the state of Louisiana.
Thank you, sir. I don't want to cut anyone. Is anyone got anything new to add? If you got something new, yes, ma'am. Step to the mic and state your name and address. I'm sorry. While she's Ms. Wallace, you wanted to say something?
I was just thinking that a possible compromise would be if you all impose some type of operational hours. You could put a stipulation on his hours of operation, possibly if noise is that big of an issue to where he just operated during the day or not on the weekend, something like that.
Yes, ma'am. State your name and address, please.
My name is Renee Jones. I live at 6006 Cormier Cemetery Road, and I'm about a quarter of a mile from the property that he is discussing, and there is about a 2-acre pond on there. And when he gets into repairing those airboats, he's going to run them in that pond. His business now in Texas is about 4 miles from my house, and we can hear those airboats there. So a quarter of a mile is significant. And you can hear them, and it almost vibrates the windows. It's very loud. And my concern is if I decide to sell my house at some point down the road or a piece of my property, what's that going to do to my property value? It's going to drop it because of the noise. That is my biggest concern, is the noise and the traffic.
Any other questions, comments? I've got a motion for approval from Mr. Navarro. A second from Mr. Baker.
I would like to make an amendment for hours of operation for the.
You'd have to get a permission from Mr. Navarro. He'd like to make amendment stating.
Would you be up for amending the hours of operation strictly for airboat usage?
You talking about like daylight hours or something like that?
I mean, you know how we put a stipulation on dirt pits?
Yeah.
Kind of something like that?
Yeah. I don't think that'd be a problem.
So maybe not to.
8 to 4 is about normal hours.
If you don't mind, step to the mic, please. Just state your name and address if you're going to make a comment, please.
I said 8 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the afternoon would be well sufficient for us.
I think, 08 to 1600.
5 days?
5 days a week.
5 days a week, Monday through Friday.
Okay. So I guess you temporarily withdraw your motion so
Yeah.
you can make an amendment. Okay. I've got an amendment on the floor that states.
Monday through Friday, hours of operation for the airboat servicing,
Mhm.
to limit the noise issue, from 0800 in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday through Friday.
Okay. I got a motion. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Now, you want to make your motion, Mr. Navarro, please,
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the
for approval.
for approval.
And I got a second by Mr. Baker. Okay, let's do a roll call vote, please.
Another speaker.
I'm sorry.
I filled out a blue card, and I would like to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
My name is David Richard. I work for the stream companies at P.O. Box 40, Lake Charles. I've got a number of issues that I'd like to speak about. Number one, the first couple, Mr. Doucette, you said that your job is not to take care of marsh, and a lot of us find the wetlands of Louisiana very close to our hearts, and I would hope that the zoning board would take that into account sometime.
I think I need to correct. I didn't say my job's not to take care of a marsh. The issue that at hand is this piece of 7 acres, not the land that the man was speaking about. What happens on other land, when it comes before this board, then it's our time to make that decision.
This particular issue affects lots of other lands. I'm going to also, Mr. Willie asked me to represent my comments on Donner Properties. We own probably 5,000 acres adjacent to that particular job site. Mr. Floyd has been running an operation on the Texas side, and I'm sure he's a good citizen in Orange. And I hope he's a good citizen, and I appreciate having good citizens, and we want to have good citizens. But I have had trouble with those tours for 15 years. The laws are different in Texas in regard to navigable waterways, and we have had to reprimand those airboat operators to stay off of private lands for a long time. So this is not our first issue in regard to Mr. Floyd's business, which is under another name in Texas. I run airboats, been running airboats for the past 30 years. And what goes on that 7 acres affects lots of acreage because of the noise. Mr. Falconberry is in here from the Marsh Club. Yes, there are very large hunting operations adjacent to this, and noise affects waterfowl, and it affects the habitat and bird usage of that area. And I think that if you're going to do something in regard to this, there needs to be noise attenuation. This notice says tours, and that's what I'm here to oppose, is in regard, because I have had trouble with those tours in the past. This is private land. It's adjacent to it. I worked for Wildlife and Fisheries for 16 years, and we have done business. They didn't have to have a Louisiana address to do business. We bought boats out of Florida. They still buy boats out of Florida. I don't quite understand that portion of the deal in what Mr. Floyd stated there. I know he does work for Fish and Wildlife Service. Fish and Wildlife Service, I also do not feel like you have to have a Louisiana address to do work for Fish and Wildlife Service. So those are my points. I'd ask you to look very carefully into this request and want to be on record as opposing this particular issue.
Okay.
I'd be glad to take any questions.
Any questions or comments? Thank you, sir. Before we vote, anybody else want to make a comment? Yes, sir. State your name and address, please, sir.
My name is Claude Falconberry. I represent the Marsh Club, LLC, at 5909 Marsh Club Drive. I'm familiar with this gentleman. He builds an incredible product, and he's always been fair to us. Our major concern is the fact that it says tours. That area of the marsh directly behind us is an incredible area. There's more pintail there than you can shake a stick at. Any of airboat activity in and around that area is going to flush those out. What that does to us is that eliminates 4 blinds that we can actually put people in. That eliminates 2 partnerships in our facility. That's 8 jobs that eliminates. Our payroll in Calcasieu Parish is $225,000. Goods and services that we purchase in Calcasieu Parish is another $210,000. Now, this is a fine gentleman right here. I've worked with him. He's done work on our airboats. He builds a great product. Our concern is if he wants to take the tour section out, the noise and stuff, these people back here, they don't want the noise. I can understand that. We run airboats too, and ours are muffled. They're still pretty loud. But our main concern here is the tour portion that's listed in his application.
I'm not understanding. Correct me if I'm. Either the land he's traveling on is either state waters, which is navigable, or he's traveling on private land, which he doesn't have permission, evidently, to travel. Am I correct?
That's correct.
So you're saying he would travel on private land?
I'm just saying that any airboat activity on that side of the marsh is going to disturb that entire habitat. What that does to ours, whether it's tours or him starting it up or whatever, what that's going to do to our facility is eliminate those jobs.
Would you consider not using your airboats then?
We don't use our airboats on that side.
Oh.
Mr. Chairman.
And our airboats are only used for emergency response.
Yes, sir, Mr. Smith.
I understand the concerns. Right now, a person can take an airboat, and if they're going to run all over private property, they can run all over private property. We do not have any enforcement capacity with this board. What's here before us is these people want to open a business. They've described the business to include tours. We can't tell them whether or not they can do tours off-site. We can regulate what they do on this site for which they are asking a change in the zoning. So where they run the airboats and where they take the tours is all a matter of agreement between this airboat company and wherever he runs them. And there's nothing you can do about it. We can be sensitive to it, but there's nothing that this body can do about regulating that man running tours where he's arranged to do that on other people's property.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Smith. And we have a motion on the floor, so could we have a vote, please, Kristen?
Chair Duhan,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Doucette,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor, Mr. Porsche,
Yes.
Ms. Cobb,
Yes.
Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Connor, Mr. Navarre,
Yes.
Mr. Gilry.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Passes unanimously. Next is to take, next item on the agenda is to advise that the police jury took the following action on September the 23rd, 2010, in reference to recommendations of Planning and Zoning Board meeting of September 21st, 2010. Calcasieu Parish Police Jury Highway 39714 was granted, and it was upheld by the police jury. The next regularly scheduled Planning, Zoning, and Board meeting will be held Tuesday, November 16th, 2010. Sir, would you let me finish, and I'm going to let you comment all you want. No, I'll be happy to stand there with you. November 16th, 2010, in the police jury room meeting at 5:30 p.m. Motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned.